Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're back. We had a couple minor technical hiccups. I think we've been able to deal with them, so we will go back. I was in the process of asking my peers if they would indulge me in moving L3 up to the first report. We have the most number of speakers on that. I would like to get that done first, so if council concurs, then we'll take L3 first. Okay. And it's out of the City Manager Department. The subject is consideration of residents' proposal to rename Oxnard Beach Park to the Chumash name Iroquois Beach Park. And the recommendation is that the City Council approves the Community Services, Public Safety, Housing, and Economic Development Committee's recommendation to rename Oxnard Beach Park to the Iroquois Beach Park. And hopefully I didn't destroy that name too terribly much. Pursuant to Measure M, there was a pre-recorded presentation on the city's YouTube channel. And Mr. Herrera and many of his group are here. If council has any questions or follow-up information from Mr. Herrera in terms of clarification, we can take that. If not, we do have a number of public speakers. And if there are no questions, I will start taking the speakers. Okay, seeing none, we will start with, and I will call the names as I receive them. Brenda Guzman.
Haku. I personally was not in favor of this name. However, I do support the name change. I want the council and community to be knowledgeable. The name Iroquois is representation of the dolphin, which is a very sacred part of the Chumash history. In no way is this name change to be tied or connected to any individual or any one Chumash family or clan. Another thing I'd like to add is the spelling on the agenda is incorrect. There is a Mitskanakan dictionary available online with University of Hawaii website, and it's scholarspace.moana.hawaii.edu, and it's on page 94. The little apostrophe is not before or after the K, but above the K, which makes the pronunciation different. So that's all.
Thank you very much. Casey Rodriguez, please.
Haku, hello. I'm Casey. Tonight I would like to clearly point out that I'm not personally connected to either of the two sides that had led the name project. However, as many know, I am a very well-known and respected Chumash member in the community, as well as being the 2023 elected executive board member of the California Democratic Party, Region 38. Over a year ago, I was one of the first people Manuel Herrera shared this vision to. I am grateful to have seen the beauty of Manuel Herrera's heart has been set with a song and sincere to honor Chumash people, which had kept this not-so-easy project going. Thank you, Manuel. I believe Alicoy is their right name. It must be clearly pointed out that this is representation of the Chumash word for dolphin only and not for any individual. Alicoy is easy to say. Everybody comes happier when they see them. They simply call out everyone's inner child to play. The naming of Alicoy will also be a great way to honor our beloved Carmen Ramirez, who fought hard to make sure Chumash representation happened throughout Ventura County. Out of respect and gratitude for all of her hard work, I believe at the naming ceremony there should also be a memorial dedicated to her. Without her desire to do what's right for Chumash people, I don't believe this project would have made it this far. She truly planted a seed, and now it's time for that seed to blossom. Creating this first day of coming together is vital for the city of Oxnard. It will show all residents of Oxnard that this council acknowledges the importance of respecting and honoring not just Indigenous people, but all diverse cultures and backgrounds. I know for a fact local city council members are watching your lead tonight. Your vote tonight can lead to a historical enrichment within all cities that are watching. It is time for city governments to recognize the importance of not just working with, but honoring the local Chumash community. One small note, I sent an email to the city clerk and was emailed saying she would forward the email to you. One council member told me they didn't receive it. I would like to make sure you look at it. There is an example of the spelling of Alicoy from the Venturino Chumash dictionary that has not been presented to you. With much respect to John Johnson and the letter you got from the Santa Barbara Museum, I believe the spelling in our dictionary is indeed the rightful way to be spelling Alicoy. That's where we have a dictionary, right? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Manuel Herrera.
Members of the City Council, City Manager, and staff, I am Manuel Herrera, creator of Citizens for a Better Oxnard. In the 120-year history of Oxnard, there has yet to be a significant proposal to honor the Chumash, the original caretakers of this land. That is until today. A year and 2 months ago, I approached our beloved Carmen Ramirez, a well-known advocate of the Chumash community, with the idea to honor the Chumash by renaming Oxnard Beach Park with a Chumash name. Why Oxnard Beach Park? Because Oxnard Beach Park was and still is a historical and significant area for the Chumash. As you can guess, Carmen loved and fully supported the idea. She then referred me to Chumash elder and at the time chairperson for the Barbareño Ventureño Band of Mission Indians, Julie Tumamite Stensley. She too loved the idea, and with their blessings, I proceeded with my mission. Since then, I have reached out to as many Chumash people as possible and created a small committee which consisted of local and surrounding Chumash residents. One of them is Mary Parra, who has an impressive track record of representing her Chumash community. Together, we created a list of Chumash names that we felt would best honor the Chumash people. In an effort to pick the right name, we set up the following criteria. 1, obviously it must be a Chumash name. 2, it should be as easy as possible to pronounce for all members of our community so that they can embrace the name. 3, the name should be significant to the area of Oxnard Beach Park. Therefore, our choice of Alicoy Beach Park, Alicoy is the Chumash name for dolphin. The dolphin is a sacred animal to the Chumash and is even part of the Chumash creation story. Oxnard Beach Park is also known for a pod of dolphins that reside in the area, and the dolphin is also used as the logo for the Barbareño Ventureño Band of Mission Indians. Our committee can assure you that we have done everything possible within our power to be as fair as possible in picking the right name to honor the original caretakers of this land. We hope that you will make history tonight by being the first council members to truly honor the Chumash people. Lastly, I wanted to thank Brenda Cookie Guzman, Casey Rodriguez, and all the Shumash people who have given their voice in support of our proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. Marianne Parra, please.
Haku Kianti Kakti Marianne. Hello, my name is Marianne. Thank you all for the jobs that you do and the services you provide. And I know it's not always easy to work with people and compromise when there's a lot of tough decisions to be made within the city of Oxnard, which I lived in Oxnard for many, many years. My grandmother, Anne Sandoval, was a Shumash plant medicine woman. She was born, came here at 3 years old to the city of Wainimu, which is, Wainimi was a former village. Our aunt was the last full-blooded Shumash to live in that city. We also have the grandmother who was the first female to be taken off the island of Santa Cruz, Limu, and baptized at the mission of Ventura. I think it's really important to understand the language is a complex language. It is an ancient language. We did take the Ventura spelling, which came from the Harrington notes from the Mixcanacan dictionary, and I believe the spelling they're talking about might be the old orthography because linguists over time changed the spelling, move commas, and change the barred letters that are in there. So we took that one because at that time there was 5 Shumash last native speakers, Maria Solares for Samala of San Ynez. I can't think of her name, Maria Ignacio for Santa Barbara area, and we had Candelaria Valenzuela and Petro Pica here from Ventura, as well as Fernando Lobrado, who we are descended from as well. So there's a lot of information, and like I said, over time, the spelling has changed. So we took that spelling from that dictionary that was actually given to us. We have a dictionary for Santa Barbara, for San Ynez, and Ventura. We have a strong relationship with our community. And when I say relationship with our community, our Shumash community in San Luis Obispo, in San Ynez, Santa Barbara, and here in Oxnard. So it's not often, as you know, there's a large amount of Shumash people. So to keep a good flow of community and service to each other and to talk, we have Mona Tucker, the elder from the Yaktik Titu Titu Tahini and Northern Shumash. That is the Northern Shumash. That is the hardest and oldest Shumash language that we know of, as I pronounce the name. She reached out to us for us to help her. We've talked to her. There's many relationships that don't come by easy, and gaining that trust and knowing that we're here to do the right thing. So we're asking you to please honor the Shumash and the ancient history that comes along from this coast here in Oxnard and Ventura, Santa Barbara. We want to remember our ancestors. We want to honor them. We want to work together as cohesively as possible. Over time, many of the same families keep showing up and do the work, so I ask you to humbly please vote yes on this matter. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Alokoi Para.
Aku Kianti Kakti Alakoi Para. I'm a Chumash native who has grown up in South Oxnard. I come here to ask you to vote to approve the renaming of Oxnard Beach Park to Alokoi Dolphin in the Kiaklu I Mitscanacan, the language of Mitscanacan or Ventura. My grandma Para lived in Colonia, where it was safe to be a brown woman practicing her culture and medicine. Outside her home, she endured several acts of racism from people who were quick to label her as an Indian witch. In a time where it was lethal to be native, she never denied who she was. She was proud of being Chumash and made myself and my family understand being Chumash wasn't a shameful thing, but a powerful quality we possess. Because of that, I've always been involved in my culture. At the age of 8, my grandparents brought me to monitor my first village site in Humalibu, which is now Malibu, and was given the titles of being a traditional singer and dancer by my elders. I treat these titles with respect as I'm not running around claiming to be blessing or dancing for anyone or any event. I'm in community with my tribal members throughout our territory from San Luis Obispo County to Ventura County, and this item is something our Indigenous youth have been excited to work on. It gives not only them, but us a sense of pride and belonging. Once again, I urge all of you to vote in renaming Oxnard Beach Park to Alolkoi. Ikikmiapi, ho'oi, alolkoi, al alolkoi, ho'oi, ho'o maipe. Kakinaliu. Thank you all. I yield my time.
Thank you. Robin Redwater, please.
Haku Hoku Kianti Kakti Robin Redwater. Hello, everybody. My name is Robin Redwater. As a Shumash woman and a resident of Ventura County, I strongly urge Oxnard City Council to rename Oxnard City Beach Park. My preference is the original place name, Sapwatahui. This would give it the most respect, although I recognize that Alorkoi is the next best name, as we have a dolphin pod that lives and visits the beach, and it's a part of our creation story. I am studying Kiaklu Ikaswa'a under the nephew of the last native speaker for our Chumash tribe, James E., and under world-renowned linguist Marianne Methune. Doing so has given me access to private family notes that none of the other tribal members have, and these notes were taken by anthropologist Harrington and all the info provided by the Ignacio family on all aspects of Chumash culture and Chumash lives, including village places. As well as consulting those notes, we also spoke to Brian Barbier and John Johnson, anthropologists at the Santa Barbara Museum of Natural History, to ensure that we're bringing you accurate information to this area. We have also consulted with multiple elders, including those on and off the reservation, and specifically those who reside in Oxnard, and they are in support of the original place name and or Alokoi. Thank you. Kakinash.
Thank you. Angela Wycombe, please.
So this item came before the Oxnard to the Parks and Rec Commission, and we didn't vote. We didn't vote because we wanted to. We put an ad hoc committee together to go over, because there were multiple name options, and we didn't feel like it was our place to choose one. We wanted to make sure that the Chumash tribe got to choose the name, and it was they came, and then they came to the group came to the committee, and now it's here. So we were never given an opportunity to vote on it, but I just wanted to let you know everyone at that meeting was completely supportive of changing the name. It was just to what? And so now that we have a name, I want to let you know that you have my support as a private citizen to change the name to Alokoi Park. I think it's really important that we honor the people that were here before and the people that are here now, and let everybody know that Chumash culture is alive, and it's here, and it's local, and it's been here for thousands of years. And the only way that we can continue to educate our community about this culture is if it's available, if it's tangible, if you can touch it, if you can see it. And there's going to be arguments over spellings and histories. You know, when you have a very ancient language, and it's my understanding that it was an oral language. So, you know, for me, it's let the Chumash people decide how it's spelled. It's not my place. But let's honor them by honoring their home, their local village, and our park that is very visible with Alokoi. And let everybody know why it's called Alokoi. And a picture's worth 1,000 words. So anyway, I just wanted to let you guys know that I am in complete support of this. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, do we have any additional speakers?
Mayor Pro Tem McDonald, we have no additional speakers, virtually or in person, for this item.
Okay. Do council members have any comments or discussion or any questions for Mr. Herrera in terms of his process? Councilmember Turan first.
Thank you. And thank you to everybody who not only came here tonight to speak on this and those who sent us written comments ahead of time, but thank you to Mr. Herrera and all of the group who really dedicated their time to bringing this item to the Parks and Rec Community Services Commission, to the City Council, and to the committee it went to. It's a lot of work, and this is truly a great example of residents coming together to do grassroots community change for something that they feel is right and is needed. And I applaud them on that. I have a question just regarding the spelling, and maybe it's an administrative question for our folks tonight. My question I wrote down is the spelling on the agenda correct then? If I heard correctly from Ms. Para, it sounds like the crowdsourced information that you all got from multiple sources, this is correct on the agenda, and I see head nods yes. But we have other folks who are saying there is another documented form to spell it, and it seems like it's the placement of the apostrophe, which changes the pronunciation, if I'm understanding correctly. Regardless, if we vote on this tonight, are we committing to the spelling? Can that be hashed out to be as accurate as possible, or does the vote tonight lock that in?
I would recommend that the vote tonight doesn't lock in where we place the mark there. Obviously, I couldn't do that on the computers we have, but when it comes to signage, we can design that any way that's correct. So, but at some point, I need someone to let me know which is the one you want. So we don't have to do that on the floor, but to your point, we'll get it correct when we go to print and create the signs eventually.
Thank you very much. I just want to make sure that we're able to move forward tonight and we won't be stuck because we're, okay, thank you.
We won't be stuck for typesetting.
Great, thank you. And that is my only question. Thank you.
Councilmember Perrella.
Thank you. A question for Mr. Herrera. With respect to when the J Street drain was changed to a Chumash name, was as much thought process put into it by the county?
Councilman, I wasn't a part of that, so I don't know the process that was used.
Okay, thank you. Second question. As you know, you have, and in full disclosure, Mr. Herrera asked me probably a couple of years ago about this, and I support the change. But I have recently contacted Mr. Herrera, and I told him there's a concern that I have taking the name Oxnard totally out of the equation. My concern, Mr. Herrera, is if we take the name Oxnard totally out of the equation, as one of the speakers eloquently, and I appreciate everybody that spoke, the Chumash name is known through 3 counties, San Luis Obispo, Santa Barbara, Ventura County. And if we talk about Chumash State Park, people may wonder, well, where is Chumash State Park, Beach Park? And if we were to name whichever name is decided on, followed by Oxnard State Beach Park, that would be much more easily identified and benefit the local area, not taking anything away from the Chumash people or all the things that have happened in the history of the Chumash people and even the people before that, the Indians, the Indian movement. My concern is also when we advertise our community, we put our advertising with the Visitors Convention and we advertise the Oxnard State Beach Park. We fund some of that advertising, limited amount. How would you suggest trying to accommodate my concerns?
Okay, well, first of all, I respect your concerns. However, the great news is that due to modern technology, anybody who wants to inquire about any of the parks in Oxnard, all they got to do is Google it, and a list of all the parks will show up. So maybe for the time being, they can, if you guys approve of Iroquois Beach Park, maybe next to that, they can put formerly known as Oxnard Beach Park. So, but to keep the name Oxnard, in my opinion, kind of defeats the purpose only because we want to name it Iroquois Beach Park, not Iroquois Oxnard Beach Park. So, but again, to address your concern, I feel that it shouldn't be a problem. Anyone will be able to Google it and find out that Oxnard Beach Park is now Iroquois Beach Park, if you approve this.
Okay, thank you for that input. Thank you.
Councilmember Valenzuela.
Yes, I just wanted to say thank you to all of the community leaders who came out here and spoke and really pushed for renaming Oxnard Beach Park to Alacoy Beach Park. Very moved by your words this evening. And also, I just wanted to state that I did receive the written public comment around 3:08 p.m. today, this afternoon. So those were I did receive that personally. And thank you to the Potter family and everyone else who came out to support this item. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Tran, do you have additional comments?
Is there someone ahead of me, Mayor Pro Tem?
I'm sorry?
Is there someone ahead of me? I'm showed as number 2. Is there someone
No,
else?
just Councilmember Perrello, but I think he's done.
okay. All right, thank you. I appreciate the thoughts that were just shared. I have just a couple comments on this. From my perspective, looking at Oxnard Beach Park, folks may recall, and I don't want to use this analogy, but it came to mind right away when the name of the Anaheim Angels was changed to the, what was it, the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, right? And, okay, but not associating a park with a particular name or a city with the name of a park. If I were to just tell people Marina West Park, Sierra Linda Park, Lathrop Park, I mean, where the heck are those, right? Well, they're all in Oxnard, but they're not called Sierra Linda Park of Oxnard, Lathrop Park of Oxnard. Those are names that were chosen by developers or named after folks who came before. What we're doing here tonight, in my opinion, in honoring the original inhabitants of this land, the name Oxnard is a name that's derived from a family who came many, 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 many years and generations after those original inhabitants were here. And we're looking to honor the original inhabitants in the name change. And I think combining the names of what we have in front of us tonight with the current name just doesn't equate well to me. So I would not be supportive of that. There were some comments too around pronunciation or choosing words that were easy to pronounce. And I know years ago when Mr. Herrera had brought this up as well, there was some other names that were a little bit more difficult to pronounce. And my thought on it was, well, too bad if it's difficult to pronounce. If it's difficult for me, then that's fine. I'm learning something. Someone who comes from out of the area, when they look at the name Hueneme, Port Hueneme, the Port of Hueneme, Hueneme High School, and I know I'm pronouncing it the way that we colloquially pronounce it, but when someone from out of the area looks at that name, they have no clue how to go about saying that. We all know because we've all grown up here and we've all learned how to say it. And as time goes on, that's an opportunity here. Even Alacoy, which is a beautiful name, I will say. I appreciate the groups having criteria of choosing something that is easy to pronounce, but know that my personal opinion on that was, if it's difficult to pronounce, well, we'll learn to pronounce it. We've learned to do that over time, and we should be adjusting ourselves to be able to honor the folks who came before, no matter, even if it's a little difficult and tongue twisting for people to do that. They've endured many, many more hardships than making it difficult to pronounce something. So anyhow, those are my comments based on the conversation we've had here. And if there are no other comments after me, I'm willing to move the recommended action.
Okay.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Teran, a second by Councilmember Valenzuela for the recommended action. Please vote.
Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you all very much. Thank you all to everyone that spoke. I'm sorry, please no clapping. Thank you very much. I can understand the enthusiasm, but excellent. That takes us back to item number L1. Subject is commitment to the 2016 Downtown Vision Plan and 2019 Downtown Code. And the recommendation is that the City Council review and reaffirm their commitment to 2016 Downtown Vision Plan and 2019 Downtown Code. This item did not originate in committee, and pursuant to Measure M, there was a required pre-recorded presentation on the city's YouTube channel. And Mr. Ramirez is here to answer any questions, should council have any questions, comments, or concerns about this item. I'm not seeing a lot of people say anything, so. Okay, what would be the pleasure of
Mayor
council?
Pro Tem McDonald, we have speakers on this item.
Okay. Yeah, I was just getting ready to ask you that, and you beat me to it. I have Pam Hogarth. I'm sorry, I'm teasing, Madam Clerk. I forgot.
Good evening, and thank you for your time. As you know, my name is Pam Hogarth. I am first and most importantly a resident of Oxnard. I'm also the board chairman of the Elite Theater Company. I hope you all know about us and our existence and have been to see shows. And a founding member of the Oxnard Arts Alliance, which is a brand new organization that we're getting off the ground. Upon review of the published information for tonight's meeting, I was dismayed to see that there was no new information to be presented on the downtown art hubs proposed in the Oxnard Downtown Vision Plan. I wanted to ask if there has been any forward movement in instituting the art hubs and what that might be, and if not, why not? Although I am a fairly recent transplant to our wonderful city, I moved here in 2020. I found that there is a burgeoning creative community that could make a significant contribution to the growth and economic development of Oxnard. Most of my working life was spent in the creative economy, working in visual effects production, education, and production support. I couldn't escape the arts at home either, as my husband was a fine artist whose day job was as a picture framer for some of the most important contemporary artists in California and internationally. It's frustrating to those of us involved in the creative sector that our contribution to the well-being of our economy and our society are not taken seriously, especially in California, where according to U.S. Bureau of Economic Analysis in 2021, arts and cultural production account for over $261 billion, or 7.7% of the California economy, contributing to over 742,000 jobs. Any artist who has rented studio space in a rundown downtown area will tell you that eventually they can no longer afford that studio space because the neighborhood has become the place to be. Money follows the arts. Other cities have proven this. From 2007 to 2014, the downtown Phoenix Creativity Hub yielded a 105% increase in tax receipts compared to a citywide decline of over 1%. Research into the role of the creative sector in economic development highlights 5 ways that the arts work. They create a fast growth, dynamic business sector. They help mature industries become more competitive. They provide critical, I'm just hoping we can move this forward. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Pat Brown. Yes.
Somebody left their glasses and their notices and everything here. Okay, my name is Pat Brown, and I am the chair of the 5 Points Northeast neighborhood. That is basically from the 5 Points intersection, and just a little below that, because we're taking in the apartments that used to be a old drive-in movie theater. So anyway, I've been there since 1993, and we have got several more apartment buildings and a condominium complex in my neighborhood. And then they took the old drive-in theater and they made that into a whole big, large apartment complex. And so we've got a lot of development that's gone on since I've been there, but most people wouldn't even know about it unless they just happen to have a friend that lived in the area that told them to come there. Otherwise, they probably just drive right on by on Oxnard Boulevard and not even notice. Well, it's good that way. But between 6th and 5th, on the east side of Oxnard Boulevard and east to Mita Street and around Mita Street, all that area needs some redevelopment, and it's needed it for a very long time. And we've been very patient. We've been very patient. We've not said anything about it. We've not bothered anybody about it, but it's time. It's like the pregnant lady said. It's time. And we also have to, in the middle of all of this, it needs to be low income housing, the majority of it. And because we got lots of homeless people that just love that neighborhood for some reason. So we've got to have some housing for low income. And we need parking spaces for their cars. Now you may think, oh, they don't need cars. Well, if they're farm workers, they need cars. Have you ever gone past a field where there were farm workers out there and there wasn't a line of cars right alongside the road? Oh yeah, they all got cars and they all need someplace for them to park. And right now we're having a real hard time parking what we've got already. Lots of it is illegally parked, but don't tell anybody because we can't do anything about it. So I would like to see something happen there, and I would like to be in touch with the people who are going to be working on it, in charge of it, so that I can then keep the residents of the whole neighborhood
thank you very much.
aware of what's happening and
Ms. Brown,
try and make everybody happy.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Abel Magana.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, members of the council and city staff. My name is Abel Magana. I'm the executive director for the Downtown Oxnard Improvement Association. You got to remember that we recently changed to a 501c3 and are also known as the Oxnard Downtown Management District. So, I would like to just offer a few brief comments in support of tonight's action and a little bit of perspective based on my years' involvement with the downtown and all the other planning that has taken place over the years. But first, I'd like to also shout out recognition to all the small business owners and the mom and pop shops that comprise our wonderful downtown. Those people are the hardest working people because they have to be, because it is not an easy place to do business right now currently. And why is that? It's because there's a profound lack of foot traffic out there. You'll hear that over and over again. And why is that? It's because we lack residential density. So, one of the greatest things that happened as a result of this, the charrette and the downtown vision plan, was that we took action on items. There was the downtown code that was adopted, and that made it much easier and much more fluid in terms of getting permits and building things here, definitive. For investors, you want to take the guesswork out of things. You want to make your assumptions as reliable as possible. And the downtown code achieved that. It actually made the development feasible here. And I hear that over and over again. I actually have a couple of my board members are developers, and that is what they convey to us. So, one of my favorite sayings was from John Lennon over the years. He said, life is what happens to you while you're busy making other plans. So I take that to mean, you got to take action too. And definitely I want to commend staff for doing that, because I haven't seen this level of activity in all my tenure here in the downtown. And so let's continue doing that. I think it's important to take this action tonight, though some may say, oh, it's symbolic. It carries a lot of weight because, again, action, you got to plan the work and work the plan. That's another one of my favorite sayings. Otherwise, you have plans that just sit in a desk. And I can tell you, I have plans going way back that sit in my office, and they're just, they don't do anything on their own. It's the people that are working the plan. I would like to close also too by just offering that there is the Downtown Settlement Fund. I would just suggest that maybe we leverage some of those monies to create incentives for small businesses to come in here, to incentivize, the re-adaption of some of these commercial buildings. Thank you.
Thank you. Steve Huber, please.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, members of City Council. Congratulations, AJ, Arthur. It's been a long time for this vision to come forward before you. I'm the chair of the Downtown Oxnard Improvement Association, and when I go around the city and explain to some of the founding families and lots of folks have been around for a while, and I said, the downtown is transforming. And they said, I will believe it when I see it. Well, tonight, I'm asking for your support so that they can see it. The reason why I volunteered to be the chair of the Downtown Oxnard Improvement Association is for this vision to come forward. It is a plan, so that means there'll be changes, but it is a vision that has been needed for a long time and is wanted and is going to transform our downtown. Districts aside, our downtown needs to be vibrant so that your districts will be vibrant. So we want people to come and live here. 500 housing units in downtown. We are looking forward to figure out how to make that work with the city together. And thanks to Emilio and his team, and thanks to the city manager for supporting this vision. And thank you. Hopefully you'll support this as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Aurelio Ocampo, please.
Good evening, City Council, Mayor Pro Tem, staff, and everyone in the community. My name is Aurelio Ocampo, and I am a small business owner. I am the founder of Friends of Campus Park, also a member of the Oxnard Community Planning Group, and the Congress for the New Urbanism board member there, California chapter. I fully support the staff report, the vision report, and the 7 big ideas that came from that. Just, I guess I'm coming up here. I know that I don't think there's an action item on this, but just coming up here to support it and just to keep some things in mind. So there's the 7 big ideas from that report. 1, transform Oxnard Boulevard, A Street, and the Colonia Road, bicycle connectivity, Plaza Park, downtown art hubs. I just want to make sure that the city council keep some things in perspective. When the new development comes to downtown, we have to make sure that what is our identity in terms of architectural style? What is our charm? How do we identify ourselves? So keep those things in mind when the new ideas come. Keep things in mind like expedite some of these bike paths. We're having our world's changing. We're gonna start focusing on the cores of cities, right? At the same time, respecting the natural spaces. So what our group is our philosophies, and these are becoming mainstream, is developing in the cores, but also respecting the natural spaces. So what is that new downtown identity going to look like? And how fast are we going to move on these bike paths, these new movements? We're going to have new the new generation coming back from universities, experiencing all these new things in terms of transportation. And so, and also for Plaza Park, I'm just a little nervous of the heights of the buildings that might come in and the density. Like we want density, but I'm personally a little nervous, but I'll let the public and everyone else decide on that. But yeah, so just keep those things in mind. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, any additional speakers?
Mayor Pro Tem McDonald, we have no additional speakers virtually or in person for this item.
Thank you very much. Just a couple comments. This came to us about a year and a half ago, and I had heartburn over the elimination of parking. And I made a comment about it, and I was later told by a staff member, oh, you could have pulled that part out and voted on it separately. And I said, okay, well, you tell me that after we're done making the decision. And another staff person said, well, in 20 years, we're not going to drive cars anyway. We're going to fly everywhere or do whatever. And I said, okay, I'm not going to be here in 20 years. I probably won't be doing that. No, I won't. And when I looked at this today, it comes right back to us with the same thing, eliminate parking. And I go downtown to have breakfast periodically because I live downtown. And parking can be a challenge sometimes, unless you want to get up at 6:30 in the morning when nobody's out yet and go stake out a parking spot. So I really support the whole idea, except for the elimination of parking. And so and I don't want to pull it out separately. I made my comments last time and nobody listened to them. That's okay. That's their choice. But because of that, I'm going to have a challenge supporting this in its entirety. So I don't know. Councilmember Tran, you have comments?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. It was actually along those lines regarding parking, and I appreciate your comments on that. We also received a written comment from a member of the public. Have you had a chance to view that, Mr. Ramirez?
I have, thank you.
Okay, and I'm hoping that maybe we can combine Mayor Pro Tem's comments and concerns with the questions that were brought up by the member of the public who wrote in about parking. Can we talk a little bit about just kind of parking in general and what it looks like as it pertains to this item?
Absolutely. Do you want to speak over?
Why don't you start and then I'll chime in.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem and Council. As you know, my name is Emilio Ramirez. I'm the Housing Director. What we are before you is seeking a reaffirmation of prior policies, prior plans and policies that were already adopted by the council, including the Downtown Vision Plan, including the Downtown Code. And those things have resulted in studies for parking, resulted in the Arts Hub, all of those things. Admittedly, this item is specifically about the development of the surplus, the declared surplus sites that the City Council declared last year. And we undertook the process to make them available for the surplus process. We have not yet entered into any agreement to sell any of those properties, although we do have offers and we do have development schemes. In recognition of prior conversations with the City Council and concerns, we wanted to come back before you to seek a reconfirmation or affirmation of that prior vision in an effort to pursue the development. In that prior conversation and in those documents, it identifies parking as a surplus, and it identifies specifically the North Plaza parking, the North Plaza site, Plaza Park site, where the Social Security building is, as an area where it has an availability to consider redevelopment, because according to the staff report and that plan that was identified in the staff report, there is what it calls as excess surplus of 1,925 spaces. And it considers the potential redevelopment of those potential surface parking lots. In this case, we did declare that surface parking lot in addition to the building that's at the corner of what would be B Street and the drive aisle in front of Plaza Park as surplus. And in that process, we have received an offer that we would like to consider, but before we do so, we wanted to make sure that the council is still committed to that vision plan in the downtown code. We will, if the council authorizes so, we will ensure that the development is compliant with the downtown code, is compliant with the downtown vision plan, and all the components within it, including the mixed use, including the idea for, or the requirement to park on site as whatever the law may be at the time, including the downtown arts hub, and all of the things that are included in the downtown vision plan and downtown code. And ensuring that we do not lose more parking spaces than what is already contemplated as excess parking, excess surplus in that document. It also identifies a requirement to produce a parking strategy, potentially consider adding more parking spaces somewhere else. We aren't there yet, and we will need to consider that as part of the continuing effort to study the parking demand downtown. But what we do know, based on that older document, that it does identify that excess surplus and seeks the development of that space as identified in the downtown code and the downtown vision plan. And that's what we're after, to produce that economic development, that produce the downtown population with cash to spend in the downtown businesses, to feature and honor the historic Plaza Park and the areas around it. And that is why we're in front of you, not because we're ignoring prior comments, but because we are acknowledging them, and we want to make sure that before we undertake any development agreement, that we do so in a way that is consistent with the prior documents and the current vision.
So if I may chime in to add to that, and I'm going to go to the actual document. This is from the vision plan from 2016. It was clearly published for people under 40 because the font is so damn small. But let me bear with me as I cite a few paragraphs from here. So they did conduct the parking study in the course of putting together this vision plan. And I have other global comments about the vision plan, which I'll hopefully can make a little bit later. But the total occupancy counts show that at the busiest...
Excuse me, City Mayor, which page are you on?
It's page, chapter 2, page 22 of the 2016 vision plan.
Thank you.
So the total occupancy counts show that at the busiest period, which at the time was Thursdays between 11 a.m. and 1 p.m., just 54% of the downtown parking supply was occupied, with both on and off-street spaces showing roughly the same percentages of spaces occupied. At this peak hour, 1,297 of the 2,833 spaces in the downtown parking supply were vacant. A little bit further down, it says, the key conclusion that we draw from these occupancy counts is that the most convenient on-street parking spaces are routinely filling up, often with employees' cars, even as less convenient lots and structures sit mostly empty. The problems that this situation may cause in terms of both a lack of convenient customer parking and the perception of an overall parking shortage cannot be solved by building additional parking spaces. Instead, improved management is required to shift some parking demand, particularly long-term employee parking demand, from the most desirable front door spaces to the currently underused structure and parking lots nearby. So I'll stop quoting the document from there, and I will say that that's one thing that really needs to be studied and discussed, which is actual parking management. Now, we're fortunate because there's a professor named Donald Shoup out of UCLA who spent an entire career analyzing parking demand in communities across the country. So what we're not doing is managing the parking downtown, which I would not argue that we need to do ASAP, but as we get to downtown revitalization and redevelopment and improvement, we will need to do. Thank you.
I guess I would respectfully disagree with those comments, not your comments, but the comments in the report. Hopefully he's okay, doesn't need CPR or anything. So. There's a couple different dynamics here. One is the business downtown, that's what this guy calculates parking needed on. But has he come up here during the tree lighting or any of the parades or anything else and tried to park downtown? And I would venture to guess the answer is no. And I'm not talking about wanting to build more parking, but I don't want to eliminate the parking we have now. And on a Friday night, I'll come pick you up sometime. Let's go downtown and find a place to eat. There's plenty of places to eat. There's nowhere to park.
If you pay, I'm coming.
I'll pay. And we have the same thing here. We're going to be here probably, I was hoping we wouldn't be here quite this late, but we are. It is what it is. But we have a system here when people leave this building after 9 o'clock at night, Officer Cosio there makes sure that we all get out of here safe. Well, the downtown businesses don't have that luxury of having an officer hang around the front door and escort people to their cars. So it's human nature for an employee to want to park closer to their business when they know they're going to leave at 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night and not be walking alone to their car. So, I mean, there's a lot of different dynamics here. And if we were to take this whole report and just line out the one line that says eliminate the parking 55 spaces, I'd be happy. I'd be perfectly happy with that because I believe in downtown, but I don't think it's, I don't know, I'm starting to stammer now, so I'll stop while I'm ahead, but I just don't agree with the elimination of parking. Councilmember, comment?
Are they going to eliminate the parking here in our building?
I'm sorry?
Are they going to eliminate the parking here at City Hall?
No, and if I can,
No, they're talking about the north side of Fifth
Right.
Street plus Park.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
and so hearing the concerns that have been raised by council over, and it's been a couple years, so I mean, the first plan really dates back to 2009 where it was eliminate the parking requirements. It was repeated in the 2016 plan. We've come before you probably 2 or 3 times where that concern is still raised about the parking. So we really came forward with an incremental approach here of let us try it. Let us try it at these 3 specific locations so it doesn't reduce all of the parking. We can see how it would work. And so the supply that Emilio was talking about, the current excess of 925 spaces, if we can get the recommitment to the vision tonight, what we're actually asking to move forward is 3 projects. One of those projects, Plaza Park North, would eliminate 53 stalls. The petting zoo site on A Street wouldn't eliminate any stalls because it's just a vacant lot right now. And the former Goldwings Museum, again, is an existing building, so it's not eliminating. To be clear, though, it does increase demand in parking because you would be building something new on that site. But that would take our excess parking that the study currently shows that we have 1,925 excess stalls, and it would only reduce it down to 1,540 stalls. So trying to take an incremental approach, focus on what the vision plan called out for, focusing around your core assets of Plaza Park, work on that. It would allow us to see what happens in the meantime, how we recover from COVID, what new technology does come out with vehicles, where we go with Gold Coast Transit, where all the other sustainability transportation options come in. And then I wanted to raise one more new piece of information from the last time we came to council, which is AB 2097. I know as a council you would like to require parking. AB 2097 doesn't allow you to require parking. The new law that went in, if you're in a certain distance of a transit center, which almost the entire downtown is, even if you chose not to reduce your minimum parking requirements, the state overrides that. That doesn't mean you have to further reduce, and I mean, you could just not develop your parking lots at all. But in this case, we're only asking for 1 parking lot to have that authorization. But I did want to highlight that new law of AB 2097 that you cannot require parking any longer in the downtown area.
And I guess that's my big other problem is Sacramento is telling us how to manage our cities. And Sacramento passes laws about parking. And thanks to Sacramento, you can drive down Victoria Avenue, south of Santa Clara River at night and see all the parking on the west side of Victoria, because Sacramento said it was okay to give builders a low and moderate income project incentive not to have parking on their property, so they don't do it. There's nowhere to park, and people park across Victoria, and I'm amazed that no one has been hurt trying to get over to their car from the other side. That's my problem with Sacramento doing all this stuff. They don't have a clue what they're doing for a local community up there. And I'm frustrated about parking elimination, and we say, okay, incrementally, we're gonna try this and see if it works. So we try it, it doesn't work. How do we get our parking back? We don't, because it's gone. That's the whole problem with this, and we're dealing with people in some other part of the state that have no clue where Oxnard is even at, for the most part. And they said, oh, we'll pass this law because it'll be good for this, that, the other thing. Well, it may be good for you in Sacramento, but it's not good for me in Oxnard.
Councilman, absolutely, if we move forward with the disposition of the North Plaza site in the way that it is considered now, we would be losing those 54 public parking spaces. So that's, just want to be very, very clear about that. That would be the case. Or in addition to that, for your consideration, the parking stalls that Ms. Golden mentioned, that study that was completed by Harrison Associates considered that disposition already. In other words, that Social Security building has been vacant for quite some time. And the removal of those public parking spaces was considered within that study. So it was part of the excess surplus, is what they call it, condition. So at one point when we discussed this last year, we talked about the OTC, the parking lot that's next to OTC or the Gloria Market. That is a lot more parking spaces. And in this study, or in this staff report, we're not talking about all of those public parking spaces. We're talking specifically about the North Plaza site. Admittedly, the petting zoo as well, but most significantly the North Plaza site, which is 54 spaces.
And I appreciate your response. I don't agree with the comments, but I've rambled enough about this. Councilmember Tehran, do you have a comment? You're first.
Thank you. I just, back to my original question, I did want to thank the city manager and Mr. Ramirez for their comments on that, or the responses. One thing that stood out to me in listening to our speakers who were here from the Downtown Oxnard Improvement Association, I appreciate them coming out, and I was intently listening to see if they had any concerns that were shared with the written comments we got, and then from our Mayor Pro Tem about parking. And I didn't hear those expressed. That doesn't mean that they may not have them, but it sounded like there is support for the item as it is in front of us for a recommitment to this downtown vision plan. And so I just, I hear our Mayor Pro Tem side, and I wanted to understand fully the written comment that came to us, and I appreciate the expression in that. My own observation, I do certainly have the fortune to live in the Fremont South neighborhood, which is fairly walking distance from downtown. And when we have special events or festivals, my family and I can walk here in about 20 minutes. And so that being said, when we do drive here for special things, I've personally found the parking garage to be underutilized even on the busiest of festivals or parades or what have you. And as another layer to that, the annual Christmas parade removes on-street parking because we utilize the streets for the parade itself. And while parking is tight, we're still able to find parking. And so when I see the study showing that there is actually surplus parking, and we're looking at just reducing the surplus in that parking, I could see that working in vision. In practice, as Ms. Golden said, we'll have to have faith that that will work out the way that staff envisions that it will. I'm willing to put faith in that. And if it doesn't, then we'll revisit, we'll restudy, we'll see what we can do. But just based on right now, 2023 and the years leading up to this, for community events, I think downtown parking is not an unsolvable problem. And actually, when we say there's a surplus in my head, I say, okay, I could see that. So anyhow, those are my comments on this. I appreciate the responses to my questions. Thank you.
Councilmember Valenzuela.
Yes, thank you. I guess I was very fortunate, or should I say unfortunate, I had an opportunity to grow up both in South Oxnard and the downtown area because my parents were divorced. So I was here in the Wilson neighborhood a lot with my mom on F Street. And I think I was very fortunate when the theater opened in 2005, my freshman year of high school. So I was always coming to the downtown area, always spending my mother's money at the movie theaters. But no, I definitely see like the benefit of, continuing our downtown vision plan of building mixed use housing so that way we could have, so we can build the foot traffic there for the community. And I think overall, like, I know there's like some hesitation or like negative connotations with AB 2097, but I do think it is a much something that we should be looking forward to, and actually gives us the opportunity to see what new projects will be coming forward since we're not requiring parking spaces in the downtown area. I'm sure as it continues to grow, we'll have mixed use housing and affordable housing for very low income and medium income families, to see them going through the community and building up that economic development for our downtown community. So I'm very excited to see how this will play forward. Thank you.
Okay, any additional comments by council? Councilmember Perrella.
Appreciate the work that's been put into this, and I appreciate the comments from council and the public. I am inclined to agree with Mr. McDonald about the parking. I'm concerned about the parking, but I'm also 1 foot in, 1 foot out of the grave. This has been something that's been drug on for a long time. We have the people that are involved in the downtown. They're trying to improve things. We have the council has taken positions. They want something done downtown, trusting that if we, a little bit, like nobody can be a little bit pregnant. If we take some of the parking places away, we can't put them back. Absolutely, we can't put them back. But there's a degree of trust that has to be given to the staff that if they get somebody to come in and develop something and it's not going the way it should, that the staff will be forthwith up to the council and go, look, this is not working. We can maybe make a change before it gets further down the train tracks. This may not be sounding and coming out as clearly as I'd want it to, but something has to be done. We can't continually wait. COVID gave us a unrequested break. There was a developer that was here at one time. There was going to be tremendous things. The economy changed. That was another unrequested break. Something has to be done. I would support the project. I would support this staff report, but in doing so, I am totally in agreement with Mayor Pro Tem. I don't care if you're super rich or super poor. You're going to have people that need cars. And it may be that they are so wealthy that they can just call somebody on a phone and get somebody, but there's going to come a time they don't want to do that. They're going to have a car. Where do they park? The only personal experience I have with the issues of the parking is I can't park close to the theater on the street and watch a movie because it's a 2-hour parking restriction. And okay, so you park in the parking lot. I do agree with Mr. McDonald. There are places where going to get the car in the parking lot, and I see several people. Now, it could be telling that the gray hair on my head, I'm more leery of young guys running around on bicycles or skateboards. I'm going to have a problem. But until the downtown area is squeaky clean with no crime, no vagrancy, no other stuff, I think there's going to be a perception that it may not be that safe to walk further than necessary to get your car. And if there's a choice, people may go to some other community. So I'll take a chance on this, but I'm trusting and putting my faith that these people know what they're talking about.
Thank you, Councilor.
But I 100% understand this has been too long. Like when somebody said earlier, it's time. When it's time, something's got to be done. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. I do want to assure you that every step of the way, before we sell anything, we cannot do that without council approval. So we will be back before you to consider any agreement to sell any property, any agreement for, that has to go through the regular process for development, the planning commission, the community development department. All those things have to be undertook. It's not gonna happen without your approval, your engagement. So that'll happen along the way, including the Social Security building, North Plaza site, and any other site thereafter.
I am putting my trust in this because I am aware, for as long as I've watched from the outside and then been fortunate to be up here, things change. What we see and what we're promised, things change. And that's the only part that gives me an indigestion. Thank you.
Councilmember Madrigal, and then Mr. Nguyen, I'll come back to you.
Thank you. Just basic planning, it doesn't matter if you're here in Oxnard downtown, the north end, the south end, something has to be walkable. If a place is not walkable, I don't care how many parking spots, I don't care what business is there, no one's gonna be there. It's gonna be unsafe. You need people here. Once people are here, it makes things a whole lot safer. People park, go to downtown LA, you go to downtown any large city, you are in for a walk. You go to the collection, you're in for a walk. You have further walks at the collection than you do here in downtown Oxnard. No one's complaining about how far they have to park at the collection. So in all, we need businesses here. It's great that you have many different parking spots or whatever it may be. Whenever I come to an event here in downtown, actually first thing I look for is not necessarily the walk, it's how am I gonna be able to get out of here the fastest way possible once the event ends. So sometimes it means actually just parking right here across the street on 3rd Street, heading eastbound, so that way I know that I'll be out quickly. It just means that I'm in for a longer walk. But overall, you go to Starbucks or the movie theater at night, there's, yes, I understand it is a little dark. Yes, wish more businesses were open here in the downtown, but that has to do also with, we need to attract businesses and, limited spacing. So, we do need more businesses in the area. Overall, yes, I understand it's very convenient to park close, and I don't want to beat this for the next half an hour, but overall, we need more people in the downtown. Once we have more people, it'll make the downtown a whole lot safer.
Thank you, Councilman. A couple of things. First of all, absolutely, I think a larger number of people that are active in downtown begets safety. It does. It creates a situation where we no longer have the impact of homelessness. Because there's a lot of people around. But also therein lies the upside of what we're talking about. If the public parking spaces is the sacrifice, the upside is the economic development, the jobs, the housing, the activity, the businesses, the business growth, the wage growth. All that will come as a result of this effort. Honestly, if it doesn't, then we can revisit as we come forward with other transactions.
Okay, any additional comments? Mr. Nguyen.
Thank you. I couldn't agree more with all the comments that have been spoken, including concern about parking, although, as you both know, I'm not as concerned about parking. I still am a big believer in the fact that we are in the exact moment that this country was in exactly 100 years ago during the transition between horse and buggies to automobiles. So I think that the change about transportation and in terms of how people use cars and whether or not people own cars, that is literally right around the corner. So from that aspect, I think parking as the problem that we've experienced for many decades now will be resolved by how mobility in and of itself will change. I do want to take a few moments just to review some of the broader themes and principles here. So there have been a couple of references to pregnancy tonight. So if you want to compare downtown to a pregnancy, it would have to be an elephant pregnancy, which is the animal with the longest pregnancy in the world. So as a reminder of the city's, some of the key realities of the city since this downtown vision plan was published in 2016, first of all, in the ensuing years, City Hall as an organization, as everyone can recall, was not the most functional. And then add to that, so we as an organization have been struggling to recover from a variety of significant issues. Add to that then the pandemic, and that how the economy changed that and whiplashed that so quickly. So you added all of our experiences around the COVID pandemic on top of the problems that we were already struggling with. So it's clear to me why on the city side we've been slow to make progress. But there's another really important factor here. And with all of these vision plans, the thing they all lack is a pragmatic discussion about financing. And I've read multiple vision plans, whether it's for downtown revitalization in different communities or for park systems or anything else. They all lack a pragmatic approach to how it's financed. So it's a great wish list. And when I was applying to be your city manager, this was one of the documents that I studied. And I actually believe about 70% of it has some very solid principles. One of them is, and this is following what Councilmember Madrigal just closed on, which is you've got to have people living here. You've got to have a residential base to provide a reliable business customer base for the businesses that are here and the businesses that could come later. And a lot of this has to do with the chicken and egg question. One of the things I thought was interesting about Oxnard, again, when I was looking at this city to come and work here, the first thing I thought was interesting was the name. But I've come to believe that it's a wonderful name that should never be changed. But the other thing that I thought was interesting is in this county, this is one of the few counties in California where the biggest city in the county is not the county seat. It's a really interesting dynamic. But in other counties where the biggest city has the county seat, there are a lot of government offices downtown, which provide a very, very stable lunch business, a very, very stable happy hour business, which often leads over into dinner business. So in addition to, as most cities downtowns have evolved in the last couple decades, the addition of residential. So there's enough critical mass that will, in and of itself, can entice business investment. So I'm fully agree with the vision in the sense of the principle that we need to get people to be downtown to provide that core customer base, which is residential. As we proceed, and again, economics plays the major role here, because all the big ideas here, we're asking somebody to make a large financial risk and to make a big investment in downtown Oxnard. So we're working, we had some leads right before the pandemic, and we have a few now. A couple of the key points I want to emphasize, though, and that is that this body, and I will always advocate and fight for, but this body needs to be focused on getting the best design possible for the downtown, especially architectural design. Whatever buildings go up from here on out, especially given our stringent building codes in California, they're likely to stand for probably 200 years. So I hope that what we do is we don't settle for the fast projects because we're so desperate to get people down here that we end up with Southern California beige flat facade buildings that look like every building in Southern California everywhere. So buildings that are going to front Plaza Park, we have to demand great architecture so that it signifies the importance of being in the middle of downtown. I fully agree with walkability. Every city on earth that has vibrancy is walkable, and especially neighborhoods or different parts of cities. So I fully agree. Downtown needs to be walkable, which means going forward, we can't allow entire city blocks to be blocked off from people walking through from one street to the other. We shouldn't have this continuation of you have to walk around an entire city block to get to the other restaurant or business that you want to go to. So part of going forward is, again, being determined to get the best architecture possible for the downtown and making sure that whatever we're putting together is first and foremost walkable. And once you get the critical mass of people, you'll have more safety, especially in the evenings. Thank you.
Okay, Councilwoman Basua.
Thank you. I've been awfully quiet this evening, and I've listened to what my fellow council members have said, and I've always been a very big proponent of bringing housing to anywhere within the city. But as Mayor Pro Temp spoke, and Councilmember Perallo and everybody else about parking is extremely important, especially here in Oxnard. I understand what this administration wants to do. I understand the vision. I support the vision, but I'm gonna take I'm going to have faith in this administration that, we're going in the right direction. But history tells me that we're probably going to fail. And the reason that is because when I look at a downtown, I look at Ventura's downtown, there's walkability to the beach. I look at Santa Barbara. What do they have? They have the beach. We look at Santa Monica, and we look at all those areas that have a downtown that is extremely energetic, and we've got people going. When people come here, we're kind of in the middle of nowhere. Our downtown, and unfortunately, that's the way it is. So I'm going to take a leap of faith, and I'm going to say yes to this tonight. But I want to caution us that we should be very, very careful, especially with the architectural, with the walkability. We need to make sure people want to come to the downtown and spend money. And again, I'm a big proponent of low-income housing. I'm going to always be a proponent of that. I understand what my council members are saying, and I'm going to trust that this administration is doing everything in its power to bring the downtown back. But we have, in the past, have not been successful, with the movie theater, with other things that have happened. We just have not been successful. But I'm going to be optimistic about this. I am hoping that we will, cut that cord and be extremely successful with this. So I'm going to really be holding this administration to this. And at the first sign of failure, we just need to be able to stop. So with that, I'm going to move the recommended action and ask for this plan to move forward.
A second.
Okay, Madam Clerk, we have a motion by Councilmember Basua, a second by Councilmember Turan. Please vote.
Motion passes 5-1.
Okay, that takes us to the last item on our agenda for tonight, Public Works Department Water Rate Update Report. And the recommendation is that the City Council receive and file the Water Rates Update Report. And this item is scheduled for Public Works and Transportation Committee on March 28th. Since the item is a receive and file, and we're already past March 28th, so I don't know what happened at the committee, but since this is a receive and file, that committee action really would have no impact on this at any rate, so. And do council have any questions or clarifications from staff? Sir, Councilmember Perrello?
Assistant City Attorney, the committee accepted the report to pass on to council. That's what right. Could you state that for the record, please? This is the Public Works Attorney.
Okay, so, well, we can just acknowledge the Public Works and Transportation Committee accepted it as a receive and file.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. And pursuant to Measure M, there was a pre-recorded presentation on the city's YouTube channel. And so any other clarifying questions or requests of staff? Councilmember Turan.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Good evening, Mr. Marcinko. Thanks for hanging in there for this item. I personally think this is one of the larger items for tonight, and so we save the best for last. So I do want to just ask if you wouldn't mind summarizing the steps that we've taken as a city to inform the public about the water rate study and also the community workshops we had and what we've done up until this point.
Thank you, Councilmember Turan. Again, Joseph Marcinko, Assistant Public Works Director, Water Utilities. We started out in the end of last year and the beginning of this year holding 3 meetings in the community to educate them on the needs for the water system. As you all know, we provide water to the entire city, and there's a lot of expenses that go into that. We went to try to engage the public and educate them and inform them of the things that are involved and the needs for the water system. And so we ended up working with a consultant, Raftellus, creating a cost of service study that goes into a rate study that looks at all different areas of the needs, the financial needs for the water system. As a result of that, we came to council on February 11th. We had a special workshop. We went through and proposed new water rates over 5 years. We discussed that, and since then, we've moved forward. So this report is for really what we've done since then. So what we did is we went through the Prop 218 process. We mailed out about 86,000 mailers to both the addresses in both our account holders for water service as well as parcel owners, which are required by the 218 process. We scheduled a public hearing to be held on May 2nd, and we also posted the cost of service study on the website. So we have areas for the public where they can go to oxnardwater.org. They can go and if they have questions, they can go to the website. There's a lot of good, useful information there. They can go through the cost of service study. We also have a phone number if they have questions, and they can call in with 805-385-8390, and to be able to help them understand what the needs of the water system are.
Okay, thank you very much. And I've seen some great discussion around the item, and I appreciate that there are folks out in the community who took the time to either attend the community workshops. I believe we had 2 in the evening, 2 on a Saturday, to try and cover the availability of folks and differing work schedules. But also those who viewed it after the fact because they were recorded and people could see them. There exists a playlist on the city's YouTube channel of all the water related items and videos, some of them as short as 1.5 minutes or 2 minutes long, for people to see exactly what each of these items are regarding water rates and how we've landed to where we are today. And in the end, after having some great discussion with people, if they still disagree, I encourage them, as is their right under Prop 218, send in the form that is on the back of the mailer and document your protest. And that being said, one last question I have is for folks who may have misplaced their protest form. Is there a place at City Hall or on the water website where they can download another one, fill it out, and send it in if they haven't sent one in but they lost it?
Actually, they don't actually need a form. So as long as they meet the criteria, they can actually send in a back of a napkin, but it has to have specific information. So that information is either the property address or the APN, the property owner's name, the signature, and the fact that they protest. So it doesn't have to be on that form. It could be on any piece of paper that they wanted to submit.
Okay. What's that, Mr. City Manager?
Parchment.
Oh, parchment paper, of course. So I appreciate that clarification. I was unaware of that, and that's good for folks to know. Likewise, could they come to the city clerk's office, for example, and fill out a form and say, here's my info, and then hand it in? Is that acceptable as well?
Yes, it is.
Okay. All right, just want folks to know that there's a lot of information that leads into the discussion that we will be having on May 2nd, and I hope folks will review that to understand the many factors behind this, and if after seeing all that information they'd still like to protest the potential for a rate increase, they have the right to do so, and there are some very simplistic ways in which they can. All right, thank you. Those are my questions. Thank you, Mr. Marcinko.
Councilmember, I have one request to speak, so let me take the speaker and then I'll come back to you if that's acceptable. Pat Brown, please. Pat Brown?
Having grown up on a farm in the Northwest with horses and cattle and lots of fruit orchards, I know what it's like. I know what it's like when you run out of water. We would turn the faucet on at out in the gardens, and we'd forget to turn it off. And in the middle of the summer, you have less water than you do during the wintertime when you got snow on the ground and whatnot. For some reason, the water lasts better in the winter. Well, since I was the oldest child of 4 children, my father made me learn how to go down and turn the pump off and prime it, leave it for a while to get some more water in, and then prime the pump, and then go turn the faucet back on again. So I know what it's like, and I can tell you that there are lots of ways that we can use our water without wasting it, but we never think about that. We just turn it on and let it run, and maybe when you turn on the hot water faucet, you get cold water to begin with if you haven't run any hot water recently, and then you're wasting that water while you're waiting for it to get hot so that you can use it to wash dishes or whatever. Also, we only got a bath once a week. Once a week. Everybody got a bath, and all the little ones had to get their bath all together in the bathtub. Now, I probably have more experience with trying to pinch on water than most of you have. If you've never lived on a farm where you only had a well, we ended up with 2 wells, one for all the horses and cattle and all of that, and they're big, huge galvanized round cans that we would put all the water in. and then they'd fight over the water sometimes. Yeah, they did. So, but we had to have 2 wells because the horses and cattle, we couldn't tell them, I'm sorry, we don't have enough water for you. We had no choice. We can't talk. We talked to them a lot, but they wouldn't understand that. So, folks, there's another way to pinch pennies with water, and if people really wanted to, they will. They'll find the ways. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember,
Excuse me, Mayor Pro Tem McDonald, we have no additional speakers virtually or in person for this item.
Councilmember Valenzuela.
Yes, I have one quick question. So I know we're in compliance with Prop 218 in regards to sending these letters to property owners and ratepayers. But are individuals who, I'm sorry if I missed this with Councilmember Duran, but are residents who in the city of Oxnard but aren't considered ratepayers or property owners, are they able to protest as well, or only those folks that fall under Prop 218's requests?
So to be eligible to protest, you have to be, it has to be associated with a property. So you can be the ratepayer or the customer that signs up that service, or you can be the property owner, one property, one protest.
Thank you so much.
Councilmember Perillo.
Yes, thank you very much. This is a very interesting discussion at the Public Works and Transportation Committee meeting. There was a phone call, and there was a member of the public that stayed. Some of the issues that have come up since then are why, and I'm quoting from some of the people that are voicing their opinions on social media. If the city is so flush with Measure E money and ARP money, why are we raising the rates? If the city is so flush that they can send out postcards, why are we raising the rates? Can you please explain, excuse me, can you please explain how the water department is an enterprise fund and the basic difference between an enterprise fund and the general fund with respect to the funding sources?
Yes, the water department is an enterprise fund, meaning it's self-funded through rates. So the general fund is funded by tax money, and so those two have a distinct separation. So we don't commingle money with them. We do have some shared services associated with the workings of like groups like Human Resources, where we draw support from the city. But outside of that, the ratepayers' money goes for funding the operations of the water system and is solely source funded.
Thank you.
Councilmember, if I could please, though, respond or correct the first half of that assumption, which is that the city's flush with money via Measure E. We are not.
Thank you
Measure E
for that.
provides us with the revenue that we've always needed to run the city. It did not make us rich.
The second part is, I believe Councilman Turan addressed it. There's a tremendous amount of information. And we have some keyboard warriors at night that hear something and all of a sudden they fire away. They don't take the time to do any homework, look at anything, and just think what costs less 5 years ago. And I think we last addressed this 5 years ago.
That's correct.
What costs less than it did 5 years ago? And if you expect the water to cost less, well, okay, I can give you that. But do you think the chemicals that treat the water? Do you think the labor? Do you think the replacement of the pipelines? Do you think the electronics? Do you think all the other rigmarole stuff that goes with it costs less? If you do, I think you're wrong. And specifically, one person addressed me, and they said, well, you want to raise it this much money and this and that. And I said, well, take a look, take a real good look. When we come to these meetings, these public meetings, and people walk in with Starbucks cups of coffee, a nice Starbucks cup of coffee is more than what the rate is going to increase in a month for some of these fees, some of these groups of fees. The Prop 218 process is something that's in place. We can't get around it. It has to do with the Prop 13 and everything else, for people to just want to protest and not, pay any more money. Take it from me, ladies and gentlemen, I don't want to pay any more money than I have to. But I want to have potable water. And Joseph, explain what potable water is. Somebody may not know. It's a fancy term and it's a technical term. What is potable water?
Potable water means that it is a quality associated with it that it's fit for human consumption.
Drinking water.
Drinking water, yes.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, if we don't get the money to take care of our system, do you want to cut the standards of our drinking water? You may want to. Everybody may want to cut corners. But if we do that, we come up against state and federal rules. Joseph, are there specific requirements for potable water?
Oh, definitely, definitely. I mean, we've just, in part of our outreach information, we've analyzed in the last year over 3,700 samples to make sure that the water quality is suitable for consumption for over 300 different test analytes.
And ladies and gentlemen, I don't see any way around having the water rates have to increase unless people stop drinking water altogether. And you still are going to need to flush your toilet. You still are going to probably want to put some water for your animal. We're still going to have to be able to supply all the people that have water and decide not to turn the faucet on in case they do turn the faucet on, that there's water for that house. That's an obligation of the city. The city can't go, I'm done. You're going to be on your own. Go get your own water. It doesn't work that way. And I hope the people take a little bit of time and do a little bit of reading. I know it takes time, but do a little bit of reading. The information's available because the rates, we're not gouging. I'm not thinking that we're going to have gold-plated shovels and trucks and Cadillacs all over the place. It's not what is going on with the enterprise funds and the public works. Thank you, Joseph.
Councilmember Madrigal, do you have any comments?
Just something real quickly. I know it came up with Council Member Valenzuela. Since the city, or actually all cities, have been building a whole lot more ADUs and they have separate water meters, would the aspect of one protest vote per property still be valid? Or eventually, as this evolves, maybe we'll get to the two because there are two separate water meters in a residence.
It's still within the same property or parcel.
Okay.
So
Okay.
even though they have separate meters, that would still be one parcel and one vote.
Okay, so, and then going back to that then, if you live in a multi-unit apartment complex or whatever they mean, a duplex, triplex, it's one protest vote. Okay,
One parcel, one vote.
all right, perfect, thank you.
This is a receive and file. I'm not seeing any more requests to speak, so that will be the direction. With that, we are adjourned. Thank you all.